Beware the Etsy bots. That sounds like the start of some sort of dystopian nightmare, doesn't it? Hello. Right, I don't know if it's a video in particular or just the theme of the videos that I've been making recently, but I've noticed a little uptick in my comments recently from people who are questioning whether Etsy is even worth bothering with, or they'll say things like, I was thinking about starting an Etsy shop, but now I'm not so sure. So spoiler alert, do I think that Etsy is dead now for handmade, and clues in the title there, handmade sellers? No, absolutely not. But, and that's the thing, there is a massive but, isn't there always? You have to know what works on the platform now and what doesn't. And I made a video on this almost exactly a year ago, and I watched it back before sitting down to make this one because I wanted to see how much things had changed and what my advice would be now compared to then. And I realised that the advice that I gave then is actually more relevant than ever. If that video has aged like fine wine, or maybe Etsy has aged like sour milk. I don't know. My point is, it's still very, very relevant. If you haven't seen it, I'll link to it at the end of this one. But there are some things that I would like to address specifically that I don't think I mentioned in that video. I'm a handmade product business. I literally make everything handmade. There's no automated anything here. So unfortunately, everything that I'm saying is in that vein. It's coming from the point of view of a handmade seller. So if you are not that person, that's fine, you're welcome to stay, but just know that not everything that I say may be relevant for you. So as I say very often in my videos, take what serves you and leave the rest, because not all businesses are made equal, and what works for one niche of sellers on Etsy will not work for another. I know, you wouldn't think that that would need to be said, but yet here we are. Anywho, where was I? Etsy bots, yes, they're a thing. They shut down shops, they shut down listings, they shut things down, and a lot of the time, if you query it, they will reinstate your listings, maybe even your shop. That, or they'll just completely ghost you, but that's usually if they feel that you have done something that you are not supposed to do on the platform and they don't want you back, which is like awkward. But most of the time, their bots, their automated systems will trawl the platform for items that shouldn't be there and stuff like that. And very often they will catch very innocent people in their net. And these are the ones that will get reinstated, but it is a faff. But the reason why I want to bring up the bots again is because they've made a recent change, but I do think that it is going to catch a lot of innocent people in the net, and they're going to find that their listings are probably taken down, and then you're going to have to shout about it a little bit to get them reinstated. I have a theory about why Etsy might be doing this, but I don't know if that's just coming from the fact that I am so very, very jaded now. I've been doing this for too long. I have been dealing with Etsy's nonsense since 2007, so they can't really do much without me going, sounding like an angry Minecraft villager. So we'll leave that there for today. The next thing is that you have to see it as a cart for hire. I've said this again and again and again, and I think I will until I'm blue in the face, because that is literally how I've been using the platform for the past few years. And while I don't make a huge amount of sales on that platform anymore, I do still make sales, which is why I still bother with it. I'm going to try and make a video where I don't swear. If you're new here, I have a website. That's my baby. That gets all of my attention, and it's where most of my sales and what have you come from. Etsy is just a nice to have. I will add to that I have noticed with Etsy that it seems to come in waves, and you can have a month, sometimes two, where you get a lot of orders without even having to do very much. It's almost like you've caught a current and it's taking you with it. And then it's like they just stop. Now, the way Etsy, I believe Etsy is supposed to work, is that as long as you've got an item that sells regularly, the regular sales should keep it in the algorithm's mind, if you will, and it will sort of keep on suggesting that to other people. But I have noticed it seems to be that sometimes sales just stop for no seemingly real reason, and then they just pick up again out of nowhere. If you notice that in your own shop, that's actually perfectly normal here in 2025, and I'm assuming it will continue into beyond. Who knows? As long as you're using Etsy as a cart for hire and you are not reliant on organic traffic and organic sales. See them as an extra, and you will get them. But if you see it as a cart for hire and you take on the responsibility of generating your own traffic and your own buzz and trying to, bring in your own sales, as it were, you will get the most out of it as a platform. The other thing that I see cropping up in my comment section occasionally as well, people complaining about the fees, which is completely fair enough. The fees are a thing. Again, I'm not going to get into it today, but you have to factor those in. And whenever I see people getting caught out by the fees, I see someone who hasn't taken them into consideration. Now, granted, that's difficult when you've only just got started, because how do you know what the fees are going to be until you get them? Because when Etsy breaks down their fees or tells you what you're going to be paying, for example, 6% plus da-da-da-da, that's not always everything. For example, as a UK seller, on all of the miscellaneous fees, I also have to pay VAT. Granted, that's not an Etsy fee, but it is something that they have to collect and submit to the UK government. So I have to add on the VAT as well. There's also, what's the name of the online digital download fee? There's an extra fee here in the UK that we have to pay every time that we sell a digital product. But these are the kind of fees that you won't know about until you sell an item. So here's what I would do. When you're on Etsy, when you sell your first item, go in and you just make a list of all of those miscellaneous fees. Any sales tax, any VAT, whatever it is that your country calls your sales tax, everything. And you need to try and work out how much you're going to have to pay in fees on every single product. I know, that sounds like an absolute nightmare. I use an Etsy fee calculator, which isn't always completely accurate, but it does seem to give me a pretty good guesstimate. And then once I've sold a thing, I will go in and I will rectify so that I know how much each of my items are going to incur in fees. And I make sure that the overall price reflects that, so that I do make some kind of a profit at the end of it. There is a reason why my items are cheaper on my website than on Etsy, and that is because it is actually cheaper, even after Shopify's own fees and bearing in mind the monthly, well, it's not, I pay for the subscription annually, but you can pay monthly as well. I still find it cheaper to sell on my website now than I do on Etsy. But that's a conversation I've had before. We don't need to go into that again. At the very beginning, websites are often too expensive, so Etsy is your best bet. So just make sure that you know what the fees are, you know your numbers, and you factor in those fees so that you are making something from each of your products. Okay, the next thing, let's put my coffee down. You do need to build a following somewhere else. Sorry. This is the thing that I think a lot of people don't like. It's kind of linked to that having to drive your own traffic and seeing Etsy as a cart for hire thing. I think one of the pulls for using that platform is the footfall there and the organic traffic. But I think what people need to remember is that just because Etsy as a platform attracts X amount of buyers, that doesn't mean that you are going to attract that amount of buyers, because it all depends on your product and what you sell. For example, I mean, you can see kind of blurry in the background there, I've got a project bag hanging up. That's kind of an example of one of the things that I sell. So only people who would use a project bag and who are looking for a project bag are going to be my customer, not everybody scrolling the internet. If somebody is on the internet looking for a notebook, they're not going to be my customer. You see what I mean? And also, Etsy is becoming a little bit of a pickle, as we've already kind of covered, for organic traffic and the things, because there's just so many people and so many products on the platform that it's kind of outstripped the demand, and there are fewer buyers? It definitely feels like there are fewer buyers to go around, and there is a conversation to be had at the moment over how Etsy has not just eroded the trust for sellers, but they also are doing it for buyers a little bit, because it is awash now with so many things that shouldn't be on the platform. It's kind of eroded the reputation that the platform had. Don't let that put you off. Again, this is why you have to see the platform as a cart for hire and build something off of the platform, because what they've done in terms of damage to the reputation, you build elsewhere. And it's actually better because you're not relying on the reputation of Etsy that they have built for their business. You're growing something that's more evergreen and solid around you and your business, that you then just point to Etsy when they're ready to make a sale. And like I said, those organic sales, they will come, but you're not reliant on them. You've got to just try and build the thing yourself. Now, a lot of people are put off by that. Not building something on Etsy, but just having to do the marketing and all of the things, because as handmade sellers, we wear a lot of hats. My point is that wherever you are off of Etsy, off the platform, be that social media, here on YouTube, TikTok, whatever it is, you are going to have to try and find a platform that you enjoy, somewhere where your customers are, and you're going to have to start trying to build a buzz around your thing yourself. And it's a slow burn, but you have to have skin in the game to get there. And that's the thing. Too many people quit before they get to that tipping point because that starting period is just too uncomfortable. Nobody really likes to hear that. Etsy is not dead for handmade. I think it's probably the hardest it's ever been, but not impossible. You just have to go into it with your eyes open and having really realistic expectations about what the platform can do for you and what it can't. And unfortunately, I do still see a lot of people starting on the platform perhaps being overly optimistic over what the platform can do for them without them having to put very much work in. But as long as you're willing to do the work and you're seeing it as the long game and you're going into it knowing that you're just not going to get inundated with sales without having to do anything, you will be okay. Right, I'm going to go because my coffee's gone cold and I am not a cold coffee girly. Right, I'll see you next week.